Today the life you will inhabit is that of a Tang dynasty Sogdian silk merchant. At 8, in a Samarkand courtyard, my father pressed the family trade seal of polished silver into my palm. At 52, I handed that same seal to a grandson who had taken a Tang surname, and told him the Silk Road was now closed. In the year 730, I was born in a Sogdian merchant courtyard in Samarkand, shaded by hanging grapevines. My father lifted me before the stone fire altar and chanted a Zoroastrian blessing over my brow. My father was the young master of the Kong clan, largest silk house in Samarkand. Every year he led 40 camels east to Chang'an and returned with their backs piled high with Uceladone jars and shoe brocade bolts. My mother sat all day at the carved lattice window of the upper floor, embroidering paired bird pearl roundel patterns in gold thread onto crimson silk. She said one fine bolt took 3 months before she dared trade it down the hushy corridor. When I was 5, my father lifted me for the first time onto the back of a kneeling Bactrian camel in our courtyard. He said that this single beast was the life of every Sogdian merchant who walked the Silk Road. When I was 6, my father set me beside a Manichaean bookkeeper to learn the counting rods. He said that a Sogdian merchant who could not count silver taels would never live to walk the hushy corridor home. When I was 7, my father traded a bolt of shoe brocade for a roll of Dunhuang Sogdian manuscript. He said that on my 8th birthday, I was to recite the whole clan contract in Sogdian script from memory. When I was 8, in our Samarkand courtyard, my father pressed the family trade seal of polished silver into my palm. In that moment, every Kong clan servant bowed and addressed me as the young master. When I was 9, my father began teaching me Tocharian and Turkic alongside Sogdian. He said that a Silk Road merchant who knew fewer than 3 tongues would never ride alive back out of Kutcha. When I was 10, my father let me ride a camel out of the Samarkand city gate alone for the first time. He said that from this moment the Silk Road itself was the book I must learn to read. When I was 11, I learned to read the depth of camel hoof prints in the dust. From the prints of a passing caravan, I could already guess how many bolts of silk they were carrying. When I was 12, I crossed the Zhongling Pass with my father for the first time. He had me lie flat across the saddle and feel through my chest the hidden ridges of Pamir ice beneath the trail. When I was 13, my father and I reached Khotan. The Khotan king feasted us all night beside the white jade river and pressed a slab of green jade into my father's hand at the farewell. When I was 14, my father and I walked the full hushy corridor for the first time from Samarkand to Dunhuang. In half a year, we crossed 5 waterless stretches of bare gobi gravel. When I was 15, before the cliffs of the Mogeo caves at Dunhuang, my father formally handed me the small caravan our clan kept beyond Yumen Pass. That year, I commanded 18 camels of my own. When I was 16, outside the Yumen Pass watchtower, my father hung the family lapis lazuli trade pendant against my chest. He said this was a mark only the Kong clan dared wear in the Chang'an Western Market. When I was 17, I married the Liangzhou branch's finest weaver of pearl roundel brocade. In our wedding chamber, she hung the first paired horse roundel bolt she had ever woven for me. When I was 18, I led my own small caravan of 20 camels east to Chang'an. On that first journey, I traded a cartload of shoe brocade for a pouch of Yuezhou gold dust. When I was 20, my father caught plague on the road back from Hushi and never reached Samarkand. The whole Kong clan kept the sacred fire altar burning for 7 nights to guide his soul home. When I was 21, the Kong elders formally placed the lapis lazuli trade pendant in my own hand. From that day, every merchant from Samarkand to Chang'an called me the young Master Kong. When I was 22, I assembled with my own hands a great caravan of 300 laden Bactrian camels, bound east through the hushy corridor to open a merchant shop in the Chang'an Western Market. On the 30th day out, we climbed into the snowbound walk-in corridor of the highest Pamir. For 12 days we saw no warm stream and drank only the milk of the camels themselves. On the 60th day out, we reached the Mogeo caves of Dunhuang. The prefect of Shazhou rode out to greet us, and at the caves a Sogdian painter sketched my face as a donor portrait on the wall. On the 90th day, we stood beneath the rammed earth gate of Liangzhou. Uyghur merchants pressed around me, fighting to give 10 pouches of gold dust for a single camel load of brocade and Persian silver platters. On the 120th day, we entered the Hu merchant quarter of the Chang'an Western Market. Every Persian and Arab merchant in the market came out into the lane to greet our great caravan. When I was 23, I hung the gilded Kong Sogdian merchant signboard over my shop in the Chang'an Western Market. The shelves held Samarkand grape wine and Byzantine glass cups on slender stems. When I was 24, a Sogdian whirling dancer spun all night beneath the pomegranate tree before my shop. By her 30th turn, every merchant in the market was clapping out the beat for her. When I was 26, I first paid respects to Lord Li of the Western Market Bureau in Chang'an. He agreed to let the Kong clan pay 3 parts less of the Hu merchant market tax each year. When I was 28, my wife bore me my first son in the Hu quarter of Chang'an. In the birth chamber, she hung the paired deer roundel brocade she had carried with her all the way from Liangzhou. When I was 30, I carried my son before the fire altar of the Chang'an Sogdian temple and entered him formally into the Kong clan rolls. That night the sacred flame burned brighter than it had in my father's day. When I was 32, word came from the north that the Fanyang military governor in Lushan had risen against the Tang. From Fanyang his armies swept south, took Luoyang, and pressed close upon Chang'an itself. When I was 33, the rebels broke the gates of Chang'an. Emperor Xuanzong fled in the night toward Mawei Slope, and in a single night, half the Hu merchant shops of the Western Market were put to the torch. When I was 34, I led my wife, son, and the 20 staff who remained westward in flight to Liangzhou. On the road, the rebels caught 12 of my apprentices, and not one of them survived the cut. When I was 35, Uyghur cavalry rode south through the Hushi corridor on the pretext of helping the Tang put down the rebellion. Outside the Liangzhou rampart, they stripped my whole caravan of its silk and gold dust. On the night I returned to Liangzhou, I carved the names of those 12 lost servants one by one into a blue Hushi River stone and stood it upright beside the fire altar of the local Sogdian shrine. When I was 37, the military governor of Hushi forbade Sogdian merchants to take the small trails outside Yumen Pass. That year, for the first time, I failed to send a single bolt of Shu brocade back to Samarkand. When I was 38, the Tibetans took advantage of the Enshur rebellion to seize the whole Hushilongyo corridor. From Liangzhou to Dunhuang, every Sogdian trading house fell silent in a single night. When I was 39, my eldest son rode to Dunhuang to recover the clan contracts we had hidden there. Outside the Shazhou wall, Tibetan cavalry cut him down. He was only 10 years old. When I was 40, I carved my son's name into that same blue Hushi memorial stone beside the Liangzhou fire altar. The whole face of the stone now bore more than 50 names I had cut myself. When I was 41, I returned to the Chang'an Western Market and found that half the Hu quarter shop fronts now bore Han Chinese names. The gilded Kong signboard at the corner had grown a thick layer of dust. When I was 42, Uyghur cavalry rode south a second time to demand tribute from Hushi. Outside the Liangzhou rampart, they drove off the last 20 camels of the small caravan I had managed to keep. When I was 43, I buried the final 50 bolts of unsold Shu brocade in a deep sand pit beyond the Liangzhou wall. My wife wept in our tent through the whole of that long night and did not close her eyes. When I was 44, Emperor Dizong issued an edict that all Sogdian Hu merchants stranded in Chang'an must take Tang surnames and enter the Chinese registry. That year I dared neither accept nor refuse. When I was 46, my wife finished the 100th paired deer roundel brocade of her life and died quietly at dawn the next morning. That bolt I could never bring myself to sell to anyone. When I was 48, my daughter bore a son in the courtyard of our Hu quarter house. She knelt and laid the child in my arms and asked me, as his grandfather, to choose for him a Tang surname. When I was 49, I carried my grandson to the fire altar of the Chang'an Sogdian temple. There I gave him the last Kong name our clan would bear and the first Kong name of a Tang Chinese family. When I was 50, I unrolled on a felt mat the Dunhuang Sogdian manuscript my father had left me and showed it to my grandson. I told him that Sogdian script and Chinese characters had to be learned side by side. In the autumn of my 51st year, I washed by my own hand the earliest paired horse roundel brocade my father had ever owned, and hung it on the pomegranate tree of our courtyard to let the wind move through it once more. When I was 52, the Western Market Bureau of Chang'an formally struck the Kong Sogdian shop from its registers. I hung my father's lapis lazuli trade pendant around the small neck of my grandson. This was the life of a Tang dynasty Sogdian silk merchant. If you have ever given yourself over to a long road, leave a comment below. For the next episode, choose A, a Viking sea raider, or B, a Byzantine palace eunuch. Vote in the comments. This film is a dramatized fiction intended for entertainment only.